Hi everybody, once again this is Zeri, Persian pen name on AO3, here to read you some stories. I'm on almost week 30 of my transition. I'm on I guess if we call it week 0 was last week when I got my first shot. I'm on week 1 of my higher dose, so feeling pretty good about that. It has been a hell of a week. Let's see. I'm gonna do the bad stuff first just to get out of the way. Our water stopped. Just stopped. We're on well water. Our pump is 30 years old. It's as old as this damn building. And it gave up the ghost on Friday. And today is Thursday. And we just got water back yesterday morning. It's been a long couple days. Saturday, I didn't go into work because I thought that, which should have been the start of my week. I worked Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I thought that we were going to be able to get the water guy in, like an emergency thing. He was going to fix everything up, and I would be able to come in fine for the rest of my week. And he did come by, and did not identify that the pump was the problem. Basically just said, not our equipment, and fucked off. Which, wrong and bad. So, I don't know, maybe, I know that we got our well stuff replaced like a year or so ago. Maybe it wasn't the pump, just everything around the pump that got replaced. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. Probably it was, considering that we had to replace the pump. But anyway, so he said, it's not the stuff we installed and left. So Sunday, I gave myself a whore bath, just scrubbing down from some bottled water. Went into work. Sundays I do a double shift. It was like, made it through the first 8 hours just fine. Some obnoxious guests came in. At first they were really upset that I needed to see an ID in order to make them more keys to their room, because I didn't know who they are. I've seen so many people, I'm basically face blind at this point. Like, I'm not going to remember you. You might come by, once a week for 3 months, and it's not going to happen. Maybe if it's once a week for a couple of years, I'll remember. But it's not a thing that sticks in my brain anymore. After a fucking decade of doing this. So, he was real pissy about that. Which, by the way, it's a safety thing. We don't want random people to get into your room. That would be bad. But anyway, so then him and a couple of his buddies were chilling in the lobby, being very loud and obnoxious, which, whatever, that happens. And I was wearing my mask like I always do at work. And this guy, I'm not going to give you any identifying information because that's not okay, but his voice had the cadence of Donald Trump, and I hate it. And also his personality and speech patterns. And it was very bad, and I did not like it. But whatever, that's not, me disliking something doesn't matter when I'm doing customer service. That's not the deal. So, but he was sitting in the lobby talking obnoxiously to his friends, and I didn't care for his, speech patterns, so I had put myself in the back office. And I'm usually the only one who stays at the desk throughout the whole shift. Our back office has a direct line of sight to the desk. There's also multiple cameras. The door is open. I can see everybody walking through the lobby. It's just slightly more out of sight and slightly more out of earshot, which is the thing that I wanted. So I'm still doing my work. I'm just doing it 10 feet farther away. And unfortunately, I can still hear this guy. He's talking about how smart he is, how high his IQ is, blah, 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 blah. When I said he was a lot like Trump, I was not fucking around. And then he starts going, and look at this girl back here. You can tell how low her IQ is because she's wearing a mask and no one is around. And my ability to hold back was already compromised by his speech and voice patterns, and by the complete lack of water at home, and stressing about money because I had already had to lose a day of work, and now we were going to have to hire an emergency plumber on Monday. And I had already not liked this guy because he had been pissy about very simple safety rules. And then he does that. And he had also been telling racist jokes, and sexist jokes, and transphobic jokes. And honestly, I try to just ignore these things because there's not a good outcome. I'm at work. There's no point where I can start saying, hey, these things that you are doing, if they are not affecting another guest, if there's affecting another guest, I can do shit. But otherwise, there's not a point where I could say, hey, you're being an asshole, you need to stop or leave. Because it's fucking work, and that's how work works. It's customer service. But this asshole starts insulting me directly, unprompted, very loud, in the lobby, while we have direct line of sight to each other. Like, it's not like he's around the corner and doesn't know I'm there. It's, I can look directly at him, he can look directly at me. And I engaged. I said, this guy said, you can tell she's got low IQ because she's wearing a mask and no one is there. And I said, well, one thing she has got is great hearing. I can hear you. Stop insulting me. And, humans who are born with a modicum of shame in their hearts would stop at this point. They would go, oh, someone who I have been insulting can hear me. I am going to stop doing that thing. But this human decided not to do that, and he instead just started doubling down. My ability to hold back was holding on by a thread. Like, I told him, don't insult me. I told him, I'm not the only one here. You're here. You and other guests like you who come in every day not wearing a mask are the direct danger to me, which is why I'm wearing a mask. He had asked previously why I was wearing a mask, and I told him it's because I live with someone who's immunocompromised, which I mentioned again. He starts going off on some bullshit about how if you crush garlic, the fumes of which cure COVID and also lung tumors, which I told him straight up he was full of shit, which is not something I'm supposed to do at work. There was not good talking on both sides. At one point I told him to stop doing transphobic jokes. He asked if I was trans, as though to say, oh, well, it doesn't matter if you're not. And I was like, I am, actually, as it turns out. So, I don't appreciate it. And he starts asking, oh, well, which way does it go? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, it's none of your goddamn business. And I said exactly those words, it's none of your goddamn business, because it's not. And that's more cussing at customers that I really should not do at work. It was around this time I realized I was not going to be able to complete my shift. My ability to be civil in this situation was gone. My desire to be there had long since left the building. I have a stress response where I cry. I don't like it. It makes me very angry, which makes me more stressed, which makes me cry. I did not want to cry in front of this creature, so I locked down all the computers. I took the cash drawer out. I put it in the safe. I put the away from desk sign up on the desk. I went into the back office and I closed the door. And I messaged my boss saying, hey, this is what's going on. I'm not able to complete my shift. I'm not able to remain. I'm losing my shit, and I need someone to come and relieve me. And he called me up because it's lean staffing. He doesn't have extra people. Nobody has extra people these days, and it's bullshit, but that's the world that we live in. And he's like, what do you mean? You can't just go. And I'm like, I need you to call somebody. I don't care who. If you can't find anybody, you need to come up here because I cannot finish the rest of this shift. I am not dealing with this human. I am not okay. The things that he is saying is not okay. I am a hair's breadth away from cussing him out. That's not going to end well. Not for me, not for you, not for him, not for the hotel. So I need you to do this thing. It is in the best interest of you and the hotel. I told him, I'd locked up, I put the things away, I'm watching the cameras, if someone else comes up to the desk, I will help them until you have somebody, but you need to get somebody, and it needs to be now. And he did. Like, when I told him everything that the guy had said, he was like, oh, that's not okay. And he called one of my coworkers who managed to come in, and I went home. And I messaged my boss later, and I was like, hey, I don't know what your plan is, but as long as this guy is at the hotel, I'm not going to be. So it's up to you how you want to deal with that. If you would prefer to have this gentleman in your business, and if that's the business that you want, have at it. But I'm not going to be working here. If you'd prefer to have somebody who has shown that they're a reasonable, steady employee for 10 years, let me know when they're gone. If that's tomorrow, I'll come in for my shift tomorrow. If that's 3 months from now, I'll come in 3 months from now. But it's not going to be at the same time as they're here. I didn't get any response. So I didn't show up on Monday and on Tuesday. And I spoke with the night auditor, who's probably my best friend up there. Like, she's the only coworker I have that I would consider an out-of-work friend. And she was like, hey, what's going on? What happened? And I told her what's happening. She's like, oh, fuck this. Oh, yeah, no. He can work those hours himself. I'm not going to do that. And I was like, fuck yeah, right on. So. And while all this was happening, we still had no water at home. Fun. Yeah. And while I was waiting for my relief to come in, I was talking to my spouse on Discord. He was like, hey, Mom and I went to the tax office the other day because we had to deal with some tax office stuff. They had a help wanted sign, so that's what I'm doing today. I have the application, I've got my resume, I'm working on a cover letter. Apparently this job has been up for like 6 months, so I think I will do well. And it's data entry. I fucking love data entry. Like, I'm a knitter and neurodivergent. Fuck yes, give me some spreadsheets. And they also mention, oh, and sometimes we gotta do, like, sketches in AutoCAD. And I'm like, shit, yes, the only reason I don't know AutoCAD is that no one would give me a copy of AutoCAD to play with. So, fuck yeah, I'm gonna try that. So that's the thing that I've been doing. But another thing that I have been doing while trying to, you know, gain some chill, calm myself, etc. I've been doing a lot of spinning. As y'all know, I've been doing a lot of dyeing. I had finished that red and orange silk, and I spun up and plied some, whoop, there we go. That's not gonna, yeah. Well, it's gray biffle, blue-faced Leicester, for people who don't know sheep breeds. It's just like some white and some black and some gray all mixed up together, and it's very nice, and I like it. I got this back in the day from, goodness, WC Mercantile. Yeah, that's the place. Closed down ages ago, which is a shame. It was a fantastic spinning store up near, the hell, what was the name of that town? It's on the way to Bryan College Station. The name of the town is gone in my brain. But, great place, loved it. And then with the water that had been left in the dye pot from the last time I had dyed something, I was like, fuck it, I need something to de-stress. I'm just gonna throw a bunch of blue and green into here, and the last thing I've got that's undyed is some superfine merino. I'm gonna put it in there and see if I can match up to that silk that I had done, the clown barf one that I said fuck it and threw a bunch of green and shit into. So, I did, and it turned out very, very well. And then I was like, well, now I've got all of these green fibers from when I was trying to make brown and it didn't work, and from when I said fuck it and just threw some green in there, and from when I got that radioactive green and thought, well, let's see what that does. Anyway, I've got a fair amount of it. I've got over 10 ounces, probably closer to 12, maybe more than that. I've got a drum carder. I've got some time on my hands. So I made some bats. And this first bat, you can see it's got some of the blue, green, which was the third. This was the clown barf experiment. The radioactive green from me just trying stuff. And I've got some of the blackish green from dib words. The second brown experiment, and some of this, yeah, here we go. That's the one I did most recently, the superfine merino. And so I made up 9 bats about this size, and did a little bit of sampling this morning. It is so hot in Texas right now, you guys. It is 112 degrees in the shade. I'm not fucking around. It's so fucking hot. And so I'm sitting on the floor. It is little amount of clothes I can have and still maintain, living with other people levels of dignity. My mother-in-law does not keep the AC on nearly, like, she keeps it at like 80. It's so hot. And so I'd be able to get through like 2.5 bats of just cranking the thingy and putting the wool on, and I would overheat. And I have to go lay down for a while and just starfish under the ceiling fan for a bit. But I got 9 of these bats done, and I did a little bit of sampling, and then I was like, okay, well, they're not super well blended. They tend to pull apart, and I'll have a big thing of silk and then a big thing of wool and then a big thing of biffle. And it's like, okay, well, I'll grab one of them and do another pass through, and we'll just see what that turns out. And it turned out amazing. So fucking mad because now I'm gonna have to do it to all of them. Like, it's so good. It's blended. It's beautiful. The light in here, y'all can't see it on the camera. It is fantastic. I've got better pictures up on my Tumblr. I'm so pleased with it. And I'm so mad that I'm going to have to do it 8 more times. Because I can get through about one of those right now. Because it is even hotter than it was the other day. And then I got to go lay down again. But yeah. So yesterday, we got the water back. Monday, the dude just never showed up. Like, just didn't show up. He was supposed to. Tuesday, the guy came by and was like, hey, I think it's your pump, but in order to check pump things, I need a 4-foot cube above the pump, and that's where the roof of your well house is. So y'all need to remove the roof of your well house so that I can check your pump, which I really wish the person last Friday had told us. But, so we got the fucking well house roof off. We called a neighbor to come help with that. Just somebody who has more and better tools. Like, God bless this guy. Yes, we're paying him because, labor is important. And so yesterday, finally, the guy came back. He's like, hey, I've got the space I need. I can check the thing. Yes, it's your pump that's broken. I can replace your pump right now. You'll have water. It'll be about $2,000. But you gotta have fucking water. So that's what we did. And I immediately took a shower. Fuck yes. It is so nice to have indoor plumbing. It is so good. I will, every time that we lose water because, for whatever reason, it's the best. Just yay indoor plumbing. Forever. And air conditioning. But mostly indoor plumbing. So, that's been this fucking week. When I talked to the night auditor, she had said that the asshole guests were scheduled to leave Wednesday morning, which is the start of my days off. So it's like, okay, well, I'll miss basically a whole paycheck, which is not great when we've got a fucking new well pump. But that's going to come out of... Oh, I got a little fuzz going on that you can see in the camera there. Yay! That's going to come out of a different thing, but, nobody... Yeah, money stress, yay. But I got a message from my boss today, on Thursday morning, saying, hey, those guests are going to be gone Friday morning. Are you coming back on Saturday? So after all of that, he decided, you know what? They can stay a little longer even. That's fine. And I know he probably picked Friday morning if they were trying to extend it longer. Because if he picked Saturday morning, I would not come in. And he didn't want to have to work busy weekends. And none of the other people that he would work, that he could call, are going to work busy weekends, because the people he could call are already working Saturday afternoons, and they're not going to do a double on no notice. And then another double on Sunday. So, yeah. So I'll be going back on Saturday, but I'm also applying elsewhere. Because honestly, I'm really fucking tired of just all of that. Just all of it. I don't feel unsafe, but It's definitely the kind of situation that could escalate very easily. And I'm sick and fucking tired of it. So, that's a thing. Anyway, we're like 25 minutes in here. We're here to tell stories. I'm going to tell a story. It's going to be... Here we go. This is a story written by Tuesday. It is one I really liked. I'm not sitting like my normal thing because with the summer sun, it's just really fucking bright and it washes out everything over there. And also, it's really fucking hot. So, this is a story by Tuesday. It is original work. It was for Trick or Treat Exchange 2017. It's rated teen. And I don't want to read too many of the tags because it is great. And I don't want to spoil them, but they are fantastic, and I really think that you're going to get a kick out of this. The first time I read this, I had to read parts of it out loud to Spouse, like, right then, because I was laughing so hard. So, this is a little something that is very nice. It's called Gift, Curse, either way, it's non-refundable. On the first day of Sal's quest, she was optimistic, or as optimistic as anyone in search of an honorable death could be. It was a nice fall day, the air crisp and the sky clear. Her cloak was warm and her boots were sturdy. Her pack was fairly light on her back, even weighed down as it was with rations. Her great axe, may her smith mother never know, made a decent walking stick. The clan's soothsayer predicted the weather would hold for the next week at least. All in all, it looked to be shaping up to be a decent adventure. Halfway down the mountain, she fell and broke her neck. On the 30th day of Sal's quest, she was cold, she was hungry, and she was miserable. Her cloak, and the rest of her clothes besides, had been drenched in the same river where she'd lost her pack. An inability to swim, coupled with an aversion to water any deeper than the pond beside her mother's home, ensured she did not go herring off after it. If she'd known that the crossing that last innkeeper had suggested was a set of stone steps and small boulders she was expected to hop across, she'd have doubled back for the last bridge. Her pride had convinced her to try. The innkeeper had referred to the bridge with all the derision her mentor had reserved for blunted training weapons, something meant only for small children and the weak of heart. But her pride was put aside in favor of never again having water close over her head as she clung to the slippery stone and scrabbled desperately back to the surface. All her food was in there? That was fine. She hoped the fish ate well. Her bedroll? She could sleep on the ground. Half her gold and the rest of her supplies? It belonged to the river now. That evening she found a cave to curl up in. She congratulated herself on avoiding the poison mushrooms while foraging for sustenance. This time. And only drowning the once. A little after first moonrise, she fell asleep. A little after second moonrise, the cave's original inhabitants returned and had themselves a midnight snack. 60 days in, and Sal had died over twice that many ways. It hadn't always been like this. Once upon a time, when Sal was just a child, any death would be just as permanent for her as it would be for any other person without ready access to the spells and materials necessary for a successful resurrection. She had been a perfectly normal half-orc child, born to a perfectly normal mixed clan on a perfectly normal mountain. 2 mountains over was where all the necromancer towers tended to reside. Up until her name day feast, to celebrate her having completed the last rites of her adulthood, the only things unusual about Sal were the scar spanning from just below her right cheekbone to just above her left brow. The latest reason the masters made small children use blunted weapons, and punished those who tried to raid the armory early. And her eyes, one the deep black of her mother's, the other a pale gray like her father's. Sal's human grandmother, visiting from 2 mountains over in honor of her granddaughter's big day, was unimpressed. Not a big fan of normality, Sal's human grandmother. It's probably why she lived on Necromancer Tower Mountain. "You can do better," Grandmama said. When did you get here, Mother?" Papa said. "Why, when Peter was your age, he'd been up and down the entire eastern seaboard," Grandmama said. "Who let her pass the village gates?" Nana demanded. "Even when he retired, he went on to marry someone of another race entirely and have beautiful little half-orc, half-human grandbabies for me to spoil," Grandmama said. "No one invited you," Mama said. "Not that your parents helped with that," Grandmama sniffed. "Out, foul sorceress!" the soothsayer demanded, before succumbing to nerves and spending the next 3 days huddled under their bed. "No, they had to spoil you instead, and in the worst possible way. Normal. What's the world coming to, I say?" Grandmama said. Grandmama, did you bring candy this time?" Vasha said, having escaped Nana's grasp, and both attempts by their parents to corral her. "Yes, dearie, and some books, but first I have a gift for your sister," Grandmama said. "Maybe I don't want your gifts," Sal said, but Grandmama ignored her as thoroughly as she had Sal's elders. "Or maybe it's more accurately called a curse," Grandmama said. "But I'll give it, and you'll accept it all the same." Unfortunate as it was, and with little other choice, Sal did. And that's when the shouting really began. The first time Sal died was shortly after Grandmama's gift. In all the excitement, someone accidentally shoved her into one of the big bonfires. In truth, Sal still wasn't sure it was an accident. Ever since the armory raiding incident, Maleth had it out for her, like it was Sal's fault he fell asleep on guard duty. Fire, she found, was her least favorite way to die. "Are you sure," she asked the innkeeper 37 days into her quest, "that it's not a frost dragon?" "It set Emma's barn afire before it stole Bartram's lucky goat," the innkeeper said flatly. "I'm sure." Sal slumped. "Well, point me in the direction it went." Sal was certain fighting a huge, angry, fire-breathing dragon would count. Unfortunately, when she arrived at said dragon's roost, it was already dead. Apparently, the dragon wasn't so much huge as an incredibly ambitious adolescent. Bartram's precious goat had been over half the size of the dragon's head, and half again the width of its neck. The goat's back legs were, miraculously, still thrashing. Its front was stuck in the dragon's gob. Sal laughed until she cried. The goat gave her a skull-crushing kick right in the face when she went to help pull it out. This really wasn't the sort of heroic and honorable death she'd signed up for. When she finally came to, the goat was snacking on her hair. She kept the goat. She wasn't honorable either, it turned out. Pardon. On the 100th day of her quest, Sal had resigned herself to near constant death by hypothermia. All told, it wasn't the worst way to die. She just kept drifting off. She wasn't even cold anymore. In a distant part of herself, Sal noted that if she ever wanted to brave Cruelty's Peak again, she should probably bring better equipment and avoid attempts during the winter. In the end, she resorted to finding a cliff and throwing herself off the mountain. Springtime brought spring floods. The less said, the better. 300 days into her quest, Sal conquered a local group of bandits. Conquered because, after beating half of them unconscious, the rest attempted to just make her their queen. "Just go live in peace. Stop robbing people. Be farmers or something," Sal said. "But surely you could use minions," one of the bandits said. "You spared our lives. That makes you responsible for us now," another said. I'm a real good cook, and I can do laundry for you, too, chimed a third. I already have a goat. That's responsibility enough. Honestly, with all her misadventures, Sal wasn't sure how the goat had survived. I could pretend to be a goat, the third one said. A goat that cooks? You'll hardly even know we're here, number 2 said. I refuse to learn your names, Sal said. That's fair, the first one said. Last boss just gave us new ones. Bandit number 4 woke up and said, Oh hey, we're alive. Excellent. Does that make you our new boss? No, Sal said, but mostly to herself. It was probably hard to hear, what with her face being planted rather firmly in her hands. Couldn't they have been competent bandits? Competent bandits good enough with a blade to kill her instead? Why did she have to take pity on them and not slay them all where they stood? Was it too late to do that? Bandits 5 and 6 were at least willing to swear they'd turn over a new leaf and go on their way. Bandit 7 said, Thank all the gods. I never wanted to be the boss anyway. 302 days in, Sal had been accidentally bludgeoned to death 37 times, trying to teach the former Bandit number 1 how to use a hoe, lost former Bandit 2 down a well and drowned thrice getting her out, and completely failed at getting the closest 3 innkeepers to take on a new cook in the form of Bandit number 3. Former Bandit number 4 had gotten to say several times, and with increasing glee, Oh hey, you're alive! Excellent! Didn't want a new boss yet. Former Bandit 7, Sal was pretty sure, was just hanging around to laugh at her. He was the only one semi-competent with a blade, and a nearby town had offered him a position with the guard. His heart was never in it, former Bandit number 2 had confided the previous night. He only took up banditry to spite his mom. That, and I think he felt sorry for us. Even if that didn't interest him, Sal had offered to escort him home, as the town he purported to hail from was only a few townships over. No, former Bandit 7 said, when Sal offered again after coming back from being crushed by a tree. I can get back by myself if I ever want to go. I'm good here. Then again, from the way he stared as former Bandit number 2 stripped their shirt midway through splitting logs, he might have had other reasons too. 332 days into her quest, Sal shed some of her excess baggage. Former Bandit number 7's hometown apparently had need of a second baker, and former Bandit number 2 convinced number 7 that 3 needed looking after. For the 60th time, my name is Rents, said former Bandit number 7. And that's Ray, and that's Snowface. My name really is Ray, said former Bandit number 2, but Rents hates Snowface's real name. Snowface is my name now, former Bandit number 3 said serenely, unless my new boss wants to change it again. Which one? Sal, who can't be bothered, or the mayor? The owner of the bakery, former Bandit number 3 said, even as 7 continued, because I have to warn you, I grew up with him, and he's terrible with names. I guarantee it would be awful. Worse than Snowface? Bandit number 4 asked. Sal was glad to be chut of them. She wouldn't miss them at all. Chin up, former Bandit number 4 said as she slung an arm over Sal's shoulders. You still have us. Speak for yourself, former Bandit 1 said. Soon as I master the plow, I'm going to be a farmer. And I only killed the boss twice today. Get over yourself, former Bandit 4 said. I meant the goat. 360 days into the quest, Sal discovered a new enmity for pumpkins. I've changed my mind, Gavin said, formerly known as Bandit number 1. I don't want to be a farmer. Sal was swallowed whole by a pumpkin monster for the 4th time. As it was more pumpkin than monster, this was more an inconvenience than anything. She kicked a hole in its stomach and crawled out to fight on. Verity, seriously, you can just keep calling me 4. I really don't care. gave a tiny shriek of a war cry, and threw herself bodily on top of one of the smaller ones. She was terrible with the sword, but good enough at a crushing belly flop. When it was all over bar the bathing, and trying to get pumpkin slime and seeds out of her hair, Sal said, "We killed a pumpkin army for this field. You are going to be a farmer, and you'll like it." "But I've been scarred for life," Gavin said. Sal dropped her axe and glared. "You are going to be a farmer." "I'm terrified to look at anything from the Squash family now." She picked up Gavin by his sticky, slimy shirt front, still glaring. "And you'll like it." In a much smaller voice, Gavin said, "Yes, ma'am." Then, "Could you let me down now?" A full year into her quest, Sal was still undying. Or rather, dying over and over and over again. "And you're stuck this way until you found an honorable death?" Verity asked, poking that night's campfire and sending a spray of sparks into the air. "That's what Grandmama said." Sal leaned into Verity's side. The goat sprawled at her feet. "And you'll resurrect once from that?" "Probably." "If you don't know, then why would you risk it?" "You can only drown in the same pond so many times before you go off in search of more interesting ways to die." Sal still thought Mama should have filled the damn thing in, no matter that avoiding the pond made it 100 times more likely that Sal was beheaded in sparring practice. Verity absent-mindedly pet one of Sal's braids as she stared into the fire. Then, "What does a woman like your grandmother consider honorable, anyway?" Sal had an awful thought. Sal? Sal feared that if she spoke it aloud, it would come true. Boss? She broke into a cold sweat as she realized it was probably enough just thinking it. Sweetheart? Grandmama had never believed in honor. "I may have to kill my grandmama or die trying." "Oh, you're never going to get uncursed, are you?" Grandmama was probably a lich, in addition to a witch, and a necromancer. The last person who tried to attack her, and that was more a subtle prod towards the village gates than an actual attack, had spontaneously caught fire. The last person who'd sincerely tried to kill her was still around, but only because she made his undead corpse carry her luggage. The only time Sal had tried to attack her, in an ill-conceived attempt to initiate a spar with the scariest person she knew, Grandmama had laughed in Sal's face and put her in timeout. Timeout consisted of being stuck in one of the more comfortable, rather lavishly appointed dungeons Grandmama kept below her tower. Her only companions had been the adventurers-cum-servants who had attended Sal's every need, and told her that said servitude was what came of attacking someone who so highly outclassed you. Sal suspected a similar outcome if she tried again any time soon. "I'm doomed." Verity grinned. "I'll never need a new boss at this rate." Sal pushed at Verity's shoulder in retribution. Verity pushed back. Somehow, in the ensuing scuffle, Sal ended up in the fire. 1,052 days into her quest, Sal returned home with her new wife to attend Vasha's name-day coming-of-age feast. "You came! I'm so excited! You made it! What did you bring me?" Vasha demanded in a fast, high-pitched chatter. Verity took a step back. 1,052 days were not enough to make Sal forget her sister. She sighed and reached into the goat's travel bags. In her distraction, she missed Grandmama's arrival. "Favored grandchild," came Grandmama's voice behind her. "I come bearing gifts." "Yes," said Vasha. "No," Sal told the goat, refusing to turn around. "Please no." "I see that you have been dabbling in the only arts that matter," Grandmama said. "You said you warded the house against her," Mama said accusingly. "I approve. And in addition to an apprenticeship—" "Not like that's ever worked," Papa said. "I've also brought you minions." Is that a horde of ghouls?" Verity said. and the materials to push yourself to greater heights. Are they all carrying presents? Vasha said. As well as a few other items every young woman needs. Your grandmother's awesome, Verity said. Sal could feel Grandmama's attention, sudden and terrible. What's this? Grandmama's oppressive presence grew closer. Sal's attempts to wish it away ended in failure. Is this goat stolen? Grandmama sounded approving. Giving up, Sal turned around. Rescued. Dragonslayer was rescued, not stolen. And you! Oh no, Grandmama was looking at Verity now. She stole you too, didn't she? Hey, she asked me to marry her. Verity grinned, not realizing the danger of Grandmama's attention. Beat up my last boss and stole his whole gang, Verity confirmed. Of course, she managed to lose all the others not long after. Careless, Grandmama sniffed. But still, one could make the argument that you've gotten almost interesting, my dear. Yeah, stack 'em neatly, Vasha said in the background, and then I'm gonna roll in 'em. Does that mean you'll remove the curse? Sal dared to hope. Grandmama laughed. Of course not. Why discourage progress? Can you at least change it so I die less often? Sal tried. Grandmama laughed and laughed. 4,000 days into the quest, and Sal had come to accept that she was stuck this way. Chin up, Verity said. Ask nice, and when I die, I'm pretty sure your sister will turn me into a zombie. The end. Yeah. You can tell why I like this one. It's fantastic. It's cute. It's funny. It's D&D themed. There's nothing not to like. Yeah. So that's good. That's a nice palate cleanser, a nice high note to end on. So, I hope that everybody has had a good week, a better week than me. I hope that everyone has a good next week. And yeah, I'm going to go apply for this other job. Have fun, be good, make good trouble, and I'll see you next week.